This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
It's the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast.
We're old school, right? We wash our own dirty laundry.
The name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back.
I refuse to be judged by a grown man wearing a hockey jersey.
Game on!
Game on!
We are back with another episode of the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast, episode 62. Joining us this evening with the silky smooth voice that he has and an expert in cheesecake. Yes, I did my deep research on Scott Linn.
Look at you. Oh, my.
The voice of the of Meigray's Tales from the Warehouse podcast was lucky enough to be on there a few weeks ago. And yes, did a deep dive reading your website profile and that caught my attention. So
I'm happy to talk about that. If you read that over at ScottLinnPRPodcasts.com, thank you very much, Jason. It's appreciated for doing that. And thank you for having me tonight. I don't even know where to go with that. I'm proudly astonished, and thank you for doing the deep dive. It was I used that, and that's how I got into sports radio when I first started.
And I want to get into that story a little bit once.
Sure, man.
That piece, because I read that and it made me laugh. But start off tonight, the drink of choice for myself. I will say part of the reason I mentioned your voice had the silky smooth sound is because my voice is shot. I've been fighting a cold all week. It keeps going. I'm coughing constantly, so I sound awful. So you are by far the best voice next to Wade in the room right now. Drink of choice this evening because, again, being sick this week, I didn't prep properly. Forgot to make any simple syrup, so I am drinking straight Belfour small batch bourbon this evening. Very highly recommended. I don't care if you hated him as a player. This bourbon is top notch. Scott even ran to get some this evening. So what are you having?
I am having, it's my first time with it, and apologies for the really big ice cube in the glass. It's probably going to be making horrible background noise. I decided to join the party with an Old Forester 1920 Prohibition style. And normally I am an IPA guy, although I certainly don't drink in with any discrimination whatsoever because I'm good for tequila and a PBR or whatever you got. I'm happy to have. But today I was like, you guys do bourbon. I'm here with the, in honor of our friend George, it's the Old Forester Prohibition style. So it is.
Old Forester is good stuff. I've had that one. I've also had the Statesman, which was done around I can't think of the movie off the top of my head, but that particular one. And Wade still holding out for his Dr. Pepper sponsorship. We're working on it, trying to pull some strings, but hey, a soda I will never knock, and no matter what you're drinking, hey, if you want to put a comment on the video or somewhere what you drink while listening to the show, awesome. If you don't drink alcohol, don't care. I'll be even bringing a case of root beer down to St. Louis next weekend for the expo. Speaking of that is and actually before we do that, gotta thank as always our sponsor Mitch with the Drink Your Face Off, and a very special shout out to Mitch. He sent both Wade and I some pucks with both the Drink Your Face Off logos as well as the Masked Men of Teal logo for bottle openers. The money from the ones I'm selling will actually go to the Pucks for Autism skate that I am doing November 2nd before the Blues game where they play the Maple Leafs. So thank you so much for Mitch to donating those pucks and asked me to put all the money toward that. So thank you. So yes, the Expo a week from tomorrow.
Oof.
Actually, everybody starts arriving a week from tomorrow. I take that back.
Yeah. Everything's going good. Excited to see everybody. Kind of gets to be crunch time for me, so it starts to get a little nerve-wracking, just hoping everybody shows up well and there's no travel issues, and excited to see everybody and to enjoy the hobby with everyone. As always, I think that's, as we always say and everybody says on every show, that's the most important part of this. So I'm excited to host hopefully another good event.
Wade, I have to ask, and thanks again for having me and being with you boys. I know my boy Frank Rady, Mr. Francis, has been out there and was
Yeah.
sending back pictures last year. Take me through, as a guy who has never been there. Take me through the lay of the land. What's the weekend like? You've been nice enough to show up to Nova, where
Yeah.
Hoagie's got the Friday night, and it's a conclave of events.
Yeah, so Friday night we usually try to do. I invite anybody coming in from out of town. We usually try to do, a little early setup. The hotel's very nice about letting us get in the room. I also just like to be there to greet people when they come in to stay. A lot of people do stay at the hotel that night, Friday and Saturday night. So like to just be down in the room, let people get a little early lay of the land, move some tables around if somebody wants to be in a certain place or not be in a certain place, and then kind of an unofficial flip through people's stuff, and there's some early deals and a little bit of fun. So we do that. Friday night typically has turned into us all going to get something to eat after that. Usually try to find, a quick little bite to eat. There's usually 6 or 8 of us that do that. Saturday is obviously a go early, getting set up, getting the show going. And then in the past, we've went to Blues games, still an option, but I think this year we're going to try to just go Saturday night for dinner. Watch some hockey and relax. And then, the difference in my show and everybody else's is obviously the 2-day part. So we do the Sunday as well. And I always kind of call Sunday a matinee because we do, 10 a.m. And then usually by 2 or, 1, 2 o'clock, it's usually kind of winding up. There's a lot of second day trades, a lot of cleanup stuff. And then a lot of people have to hit the road. The reason I've always done the 2-day show is probably my background in the hobby. And also being a guy who typically works on Saturdays, I don't like taking away the opportunity for those Saturday people or people with kids that have events on either of the 2 days, or the church people or whatever. So I've just discovered that the 2-day, I think, gives everybody an opportunity to enjoy it and not miss because, oh man, I can't make it on Saturday, or man, Sundays are terrible for me.
And we do have even the St. Louis Blues are coming on Sunday with Ringside Reserve.
Yeah, Ringside's going to be there. I always try to get them to tell me what they're going to bring, and they never do. Thanks a lot, Nick. There's even a new kid there, and I tried to kind of talk him into it. But in speaking to him, he's actually pretty seasoned. He worked for the Pirates doing something similar before he came to the Blues. So I kind of tried to, old man him into letting me know, and it didn't work. So I still don't know what we're going to have, but I do bet that we're going to have some great stuff, because last year they showed up with some fantastic items and blew everybody's, socks off. And I've been kind of told that that's going to happen again. So very excited to see how that works. The neatest part of it is always just seeing what everybody brings, what's available, what's new, what people have added, what people want to show off, what people are even selling or trading at that point. Because, you're always going to see a gem that's going to jump out at you.
Such a cool forum, and the sweaters are great. Jason, you and I talked about this. The connections are always great. There are guys that I see at Nova, whether it's a Friday night or on the Saturday afternoon, that it's always like we've missed zero time in getting together, and they come over to the table and they start to BS, and it's just, you re-click, and you're laughing, and you're laughing about something. You're laughing about something, boys, that may have been funny 15 years ago when you first met this person, but it still strikes a chord. And then, of course, the common bond is, we're all in love with game-worn fabric, and it's a pretty cool bond.
Absolutely. And it's neat to see people, because there's guys that collect different stuff. And for me, one of the things, and I always say this, and it's kind of embarrassing, but I think I do it once or twice or a few times during the show. Usually I'll find myself where I'll stop and I just take a minute and I look around, and I'll see people just in their piles talking, and then see people looking at other people's stuff and people just enjoying the hobby. And I usually it sounds dumb, but I take a second and I'm just like, man, this is pretty awesome. Proud of everybody in the hobby for supporting it, and proud of guys like Jason, and, Milt comes a long way, Brian Clifford's of the world, even my local friends that come, but just everybody and that support it. But I take that minute and I go, wow, this is awesome. And I'm pretty excited that I get to host it.
It's not Pollyannish in the least. And again, I've never hosted one of these shows, but even when I get to do the Tales from the Warehouse and people bring on and people share their stories and people have their stuff in the background, that's badass. When I go to these expos, whether it's New Jersey or Northern Virginia or you name it, wherever I've been and wherever I've been exposed, I look around and I just go, you have to be kidding me that I just was able to hold, try on, examine, come in close contact with, and again, could be a first liner, could be a Hall of Famer, could be a living legend, could be a passed on legend, could be a guy that I liked for 10 minutes and I was collecting cards from in 1983 or 78 or whenever, wherever. And I just go, that's his seriously, that's his uniform. That's still, it's honest to God, you are spot on. It's always, and it'll never get old. It's always a watch me moment.
You never know what you're going to see. Heritage last year, I know, was taking in a lot of baseball stuff too. And a gentleman brought in a full wool uniform. Was it the 30s or the 40s? I don't remember the year.
Yeah.
But it was
like a 40s or late 40s, early 50s Cardinal full uniform. Pretty incredible. Guy brought in a Clemente rookie that was like a banger. It is crazy. Scott, I agree. That's the part that to me just gets me every time is just watching all the stuff and seeing all the stuff and getting to touch it. We got a lot of guys that do baseball stuff that come and, we've got some guys that represent the 80 Olympic stuff, and those guys bring in some incredible stuff from that era. And you're just like, wow, Miracle on Ice stuff. And you're just like, oh my God. It's fun. And I think back to the first one that I don't even count as the first one as far as the lineage of it. But the first time I came up with this idea and we did it in St. Louis, it was literally at a bar that's closed now that was a blues bar, kind of focused, sports bar. And, it was me and two guys. It was me and Rick Ackerman and Gary Kufert, and the three of us kind of came and carloads full of stuff, and we did it short notice. Nobody else really showed up. A couple people that rolled in, and I remember at that moment I was like, I think I can make this something cool. I think I can grow this. But that's where it all started, was just kind of an opportunity to exchange stuff with somebody, and it's turned into something a lot bigger. So.
You said it, and Jason said it too. You never know what's going to show up. And along those lines, all three of us are big into hockey and NHL and other things, but just focusing on hockey. What I love is when I go to these and I'm like, that's amazing, that's amazing, that's amazing. But then the guy across from me has NFL helmets that are scuffed to beat the band. And I wind up spending the whole day there. Just, it's like, I collect hockey. But dude, I never get to see this stuff. This is a totally different sandbox. So that's also the part that not only do you not know what's going to show up, it may be totally outside of your lane, yet you fall in love with it anyway.
You'll see the hockey guys over looking at baseball bats, and you'll see the baseball guys over,
looking at goaltending equipment or something, right?
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So excited, I guess, is just the word that always comes to mind when it gets this close. I get nervous. So I want it to go off well, and I want people to be happy, but excited to do it again. And it's funny as now I'm already, I guess, gearing up in my brain for this year was a little bit of a downturn for me. I've just been really kind of overwhelmed with a lot of stuff, and I'm already going, man, I'm kind of already geared up for next year. Hey, what can I do to make it better next year? And I've already got some plans, and then guys like Doc and I will sit down at some point and, we'll kind of do a little review, because I can't do it without my friends. And then suddenly it's all right, let's try this next year. Or, hey, this might be cool. That's how the podcast, we started taping the podcast at the show that way. It just turned into something that has turned into a fantastic part of the show, is watching people get grabbed to go over and, do a chunk of a podcast, or getting the players
out with a microphone in front of them all of a sudden.
Yeah. I always kid around. I always say this seems really easy. And people are like, oh, you should have, and I'm like, man, it really seems like it's pretty easy to get on here and do this. But the first couple of times is pretty nerve wracking, and Scott, you do this regularly and, you get it. The first time you jump on here, you're like, God, I hope I don't look stupid. I hope I don't sound stupid. I hope I don't do something stupid. So yeah, watching people's first time, like when we ask them to sit in front of the mic, is pretty. From like Doc will be talking to him, and I'm sitting over there kind of giggling because I'm like, oh man, this
Yep.
part of my French, but I'm like, man, this asshole can't handle this. He's hating. He's so nervous, you know.
You can tell they're
and
just
I say that as a friendly thing, so it's usually my friends that I'm making fun of. But
Of course,
like, oh, this is awesome.
of course, and it's the same bit of advice that I'm like, look, we're just talking. We're at a bar. We're at a diner. There's a plate of crispy double cooked fries in front of us. You're drinking a egg cream or a milkshake or a soda or a beer or a scotch or whatever it is you're drinking. And if you screw up, it's digital audio, just like a bad picture. Delete, and we'll cut it out. It's okay. No, just relax. Just nobody tells your story just like you're doing now about the show, just like Doc does about his collection, about the things he loves, and about this podcast and what have you. Just like nobody tells your story better than you. So I'm just here to help facilitate, and I'm out of the way. Tell your story.
Your show's fantastic with that, because I think the one thing that I take from your show that I think is great is the stories are fantastic, but also like I think that the one thing you do is you let people show their passion, which I think is fantastic. And I think that's something that we all have that I've worked in the hobby full time. I've worked in different aspects of the hobby. And the one thing that I always take from it is how passionate the people are about the stuff they love. And you do a great job of letting that flow. And, Doc does a great job of letting our show flow, and your guys' background make it really incredible. So the hobby is fortunate to have guys like you guys.
It's very kind of you, and we're over talking because I want Jason to rest his voice and just
Hey, this is going to be a long one.
It's like I got a radio guy and a podcaster on. I could just sit back and sip, and I'll go make tea. I'll go to the bathroom. I'll go to Costco. I'll go to Home Depot, and then I'll come back at the end and I'll talk for a couple minutes. But no, it's honestly it's not my personality. Although I've talked enough already, I want you guys to talk more. But it's not my personality to dominate. I'm there as a conduit. I'm there, the guests, and whether it's Stu or Jim or Dave or Barry or Jeff or Patrick or whomever, or Gray when he was at Meigray, or the collector's profiles, which I adore doing. I'm just I'm Larry King, basically, without the suspenders and the slicked hair, without any hair, actually. But
the garlic, for that matter.
Exactly, or the garlic, or the oyster stuff that he was doing, the infomercials that they were running long after his passing. By the way, how he was proselytizing about long life and good health, and I'm like, yeah, Larry died. I don't know if I'd be running this in the 5:30 a.m. morning window anyway. But no, just it's lay out and let your guests have fun and tell the story. And our hardest job is to make sure you guys are relaxed and make sure everybody enjoys. We're the attendants on the flight. You're flying the plane and you're there in first class kicking back. We want you to talk. The hardest podcasts I do are the ones that when you have to like pull teeth. I
hate that.
Because Jason, that's. And again, given background in radio and that sort of, mode of communications. Okay, Scott, we got you a really good interview with a really great guest, and I'm prepared, but you're also listening to the answers so you can bounce off the answers. Oh, shoot, I didn't even realize that. Now this is, a whole line of questioning I wasn't prepared for, but you just gave me a great answer, so we're going to riff off of that. Just ask, and hopefully they'll be willing to. The best podcasts are the ones with very little me. Shh.
Oh, for sure. No, and we'll get into Scott, to your extensive background and how you got into collecting and all that here in just a minute. Want to touch on a few other things. Yeah, very excited again for the expo this coming this next weekend. Weather's going to be beautiful for anybody traveling. Speaking of the weather, do want to again. I hope that I have to do this every time we record a show, but for the people in Florida who just went through Milton, I hope your house and your family and all that stuff is okay. I know I did see some pictures of Bobby Eagle had all his stuff on a truck and drove it away.
Yeah, saw Bobby's pictures. Tim Zelmansky,
Yep.
longtime collector, Timmy Z down there in Celebration, right by the parks. He said just debris, and Timmy's got all those kids and that lovely wife of his, and just a good gregarious fellow. But debris, like they died, and obviously there was some loss of life. There was traumatic damage and surge, and a lot of communities are severely disrupted and will be, but all things considered, and I know you're not supposed to use a phrase like that, they just it like everything broke right for it to not be a whole hell of a lot worse.
Yeah, because if it had
My
come
thoughts,
as far as
are with everybody down there. I have a bunch of friends, and that was one of the first things I did this morning was a bunch of text messages and check-ins and stuff, and to anybody down in that area, anybody just hoping they're all okay, and sending my best regards and hope that everybody's safe and well.
So yes, and if anybody needs things, reach out to collectors. We can help even from a distance on stuff. I want to give a shout out to Sean Sullivan, who sent me some pictures of the pricing and some other things. The Hawks did a sale last Friday. Pricing was, I thought, especially for Chicago, was pretty reasonable. Sticks were 1 to 300, gloves were 100, helmets were 100. A lot of people were very happy to pick up some different player helmets. Goalie gloves and blockers were 250, skates were 150 to 250. They had blank practice jerseys for 100. The named practice slash training camp type were 200. Then they had a big pile of blank game jerseys, the Adidas game jerseys, for 400. I know I've seen a lot of posts of people that pick those up and are working on lettering and stuff now. But overall, I know some people were kind of disappointed in the sale. Some people were still happy, and a very wide age range of stuff that appeared. Some of the goalie stuff was older, varying years of helmets and stuff. Overall, it seemed like it was decent-ish, but no game jerseys, things like that. There's still a lot of questions of what's going to happen with those things, and Sean will keep me up to date if he hears anything there, so I do appreciate his help to the north of me. I mentioned Pro Stock Hockey last week with their Rangers stuff that came in, the random game jerseys. They dropped earlier this week, and unfortunately, I think all of them are now sold out, but they had the Hockey Fights Cancer. They had military jerseys. They still have some blank ones left, but they had named lettered ones of those that were up for sale. They did not last any time at all. So I know that's not a normal place that anybody looks for game jerseys, but you might want to start. Auctions over on NHL auctions, a few different ones going on. You have on the equipment side of things, you have a mix of stuff. There's a stick from the 2016 World Cup of Hockey in there. You've got the Rangers have a bunch of signed skates from different guys, and some of those seem a little high. Opening bids are $750, $850 for skates. And it's Adam Fox and some of that, but that still seems a little on the high side, at least for me. And then also you have the Global Series jerseys in here. You have the Buffalo Sabres and the New Jersey Devils. They are worn in the second and third periods. Auction open on the 5th, goes till October 20th. Some of them don't look like they have a lot of bids on them right now. Meigray has the Devils Global Series as well, and theirs are, just to confirm,
I got it open in front of me if your web's a little slow, but yes, October 5th in that game, and that ends 19 days from now. So what are we looking at? About October 29th or 30th, give or take, if my clock is correct. And these are, as I just open up one piece, Brendan Dillon, for instance. This was worn during the Global Series, wore this while playing for the Devils during their 3-1 win over the Buffalo Sabres. It does not have a period distinction. I think they were worn in that game.
What's interesting, though, is and maybe it's mixed around, because I'm trying to see if I can find the one on same player on NHL auctions, because they say second and third period. Maybe you have to run the Meigray tag later to see. I wonder if it's first period or yeah, their Brendan Dillon says second and third period for October the 4th. So if this was
this
the
is
October
10-5.
the 5th game, okay. So this most likely, or at least by what we see, is a full game. But
And
beautiful.
the Devils are a program team too, Doc.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean that stands to reason to make sense that you get a game. That's kind of cool.
Yep, absolutely.
I will say, and it's weird to scroll down and look at the back and see the Fanatics flag in the back center of the neck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the neck tagging on the inside, the Authentic Pro, the way that's numbered, with that more ironed on type tag instead of a fabric tag.
Reminds me a little bit of what the Sharks were doing, where they had the interior of that also that ironed on type thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how, and again, I defer to you guys, but I remember seeing that. I had a reverse retro at one point in time, and they weren't the only team that did that. Did the Leafs do something like that? Maybe an iron on near the fight strap. I'm trying to think, or maybe it was just sort of like that the cat stitch or whatever appeared to be, or whatever. Maybe I'm just talking out of my chair, which is always a distinct possibility. But I'm with you. I'm not bothered by this. It's interesting. The words Authentic Pro, and I know you guys have talked a lot about that in the neck. I think that's going to take some getting used to, because so many of the different varieties, boys, it's like, oh yeah, is this really a gamer? Yes, it's really a gamer. It's got the Meigray tag. It's got the whatchamacallit, the who does the lettering, the PX. Yes, it's properly tagged. It's legit, but it's just going to be something to get used to.
I think here's the one thing too. I guess I'm always a skeptic, so I'm still waiting to see if the ones that the players wear are exactly identical to the ones that, if maybe there's, I think back to years ago with baseball jerseys with the Majestic stuff. The game ones had a different code tag on the inside, even though they were the same. So I'm interested to see if maybe there is some very minute tagging distinction between them that's going to be a giveaway, or if they are absolutely just like out of the same box, one goes to the team, one goes to the store kind of thing. So that will be a fun thing to watch this season to see how that ends up.
And I will say, when I went to the game this past Saturday, the Blues and Blackhawks game, I went to the store specifically to look at those, and that neck tagging is identical.
Wow.
The stripping, the all of that stuff in there. I also did flip up the hem where the board on tag and stuff would be on the side of the low side of the jersey, and that was there as well. The same what I'm used to seeing in the Adidas Pros and the Reeboks is that tag hanging there with that born on date. So
it'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, I did see somebody post online today that they got, can't remember what team they got, may have been Devils, somebody, but they bought one of the Pro Authentics and put it on and said they felt off. They did not like the feeling of it. I know the elbows and down the arms have extra material. I'll be curious to see how that wear and stuff is done, but at least putting my hands on one, and again, not being able to touch a gamer yet to see if there's any difference. The tagging is at least the same, and it seems to be very heavy and decent quality.
That's good to know.
Yeah, very good to know. By the way, a quick update too, because I tend to be a goalie guy a little bit, modestly so. Jake Allen, you guys would know this because of his time in St. Louis, apparently wears 3 sweaters a game. So the one at the Meigray auction is third period only. I don't know what's on NHL.com from him, and Markstrom played in the other game, but Allen's up at Meigray auctions is third period only. Maybe he got to keep one. Maybe the other one went to NHL.com. Not sure, but this is third period only.
And on the NHL auctions, a good catch with that too, by the way. Worn during second and third periods in October, 4 size 58G, backup goalie. So since he was the backup, he had no reason to switch, I'm guessing.
Probably not.
So
yeah, for comfort's sake, unless he got mustard on it, like Ole Kolzig in that famous hockey card.
That's great.
For sure. But yeah, keep an eye on those. They're gorgeous looking jerseys too. So you got 2 games to choose from between NHL auctions and Meigray. And I think that's all of the stuff that I've seen happen around the hobby this week, or auctions or things to be aware of. Oh, one thing too, we were talking about customization and tagging and that. We were shocked, Wade and I were, I think, just as much as anybody else, that we found out that the St. Louis Blues customization is not being done by Libby anymore.
Yeah, wild, because I mean, Libby's here in St. Louis and long time. They've been doing it. Geez, for how long? I mean, it goes all the way back to when the Blues left custom crafted. I think Libby's been doing it. So you're talking like, early. So that's pretty wild. Interesting to see if maybe Libby wanted to get away for it, or if the Blues. I mean, who knows? But
Yeah,
it looked like the Avalanche went to the same place, and
EPS, and they're based out of Chicago, aren't they?
Yeah, like somewhere outside of Chicago, I think, like Northern Illinois, basically. Yeah.
Just kind of, and again, short trip to UPS or FedEx it from up there to St. Louis. But yeah, it is very surprising. So we'll have to see what change, if there's anything change, or we notice difference in the material, things like that. But caught us all off guard when it was posted on their site and then got shared around the Blues hobby, especially. So we have covered.
Is there a vibe on this story, real quick? Sorry, before we walk away from this, is there a vibe on the story that someday, perhaps soon, there'll be a little bit of discussion like, hey, it was just a business decision, or we love their work, or dissatisfaction, or maybe it was some sort of an edict, maybe because of the new partnership, and we prefer you to go with them. End of story.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard. Libby did the Cardinals for a really long time too, and I know that kind of went away with, the way Fanatics does stuff, and over the last number of years. I mean, Libby's. It's gonna be interesting to see how that happened, or why it happened, or who determined whether or not it was the Blues, or maybe Libby just said, "Hey, that we're getting away from this." I mean, who knows? It might be some investigating that needs to happen, or a phone call to somebody.
For sure.
But I think it'll be interesting to find out how it happened. It also sounded like the Avalanche went along with the Blues. And those people seem like they were happy about it, because I guess they've used that company in the past to do their customization. So I guess as a Blues fan, I'm interested to see what the quality looks like. Libby's always done a fantastic job of making the jerseys look really, really good. So will be fun to see. One thing I do want to throw in on the Fanatics thing is the name bars, because as far as I know, and Doc, you might be able to back this up, this is what I was thinking about was, even if you get one fully customized, authentic out of the team store, you don't get a correct material name bar. That starts to be an interesting piece to this.
Yeah, unless Fanatics is sent out to teams, just a crap ton of them to get them, because the material is slightly different.
Absolutely. Be very interesting to see what that does as far as the customization when we first start seeing those coming out of wherever. That's another thing that's going to be funny is, the Blues, if you paid for the authentic customization at the team store, they used to send those to Libby to get done. So now the question is, are they boxing them up and sending them to Chicago, or, like there's a lot of questions in that front.
All the money.
Yeah. Keep a close eye on it and let people know. And I know, again, we as game worn collectors don't get customized jerseys much, but it's still good. It's a good thing to know about the hobby, and some people may, if they want to get a certain person, do that. I was sad to see, I was scrolling eBay the other night looking at jerseys and came across one that had been stripped, Blues heritage jersey, been stripped and turned into a Jordan Cairo. So I've got to figure out who that was previously and see if it's in my notes of auctions or whatnot, or if it was just one of the issued ones. But still, I hate to go out and see that. So the man of the hour, who has injected just tons of great conversations through this whole from the time we hit the record button, Scott Linn.
Drinking. More drinking.
That helps too. Between drinking Belfour and NyQuil, that it doesn't mix well together for sure. So Scott, why don't you just give us a little of your background first?
Collecting background, personal background, professional background. You tell me. I'll give you the whole salad bar, and
just
we
kind
don't
of
have to have the beats.
mishmash it together because you do, like I said, you have that silky smooth voice, definitely for radio. Don't have the face for TV, nor right now do I have the voice for radio.
You got the personality for it, though, my friend. Let's see where to start. Currently, dad of three, two dogs in the house as well. Daughter's a recent college graduate, went to the lovely James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Son is a junior at Penn State. Up at State College, and we also have a 10th grader. My wife is a rock star. She is in the mental health professional business. Does not here's her limitations as far as sports fans. She loves to see the kids and loved to see the kids play sports. Our youngest plays high school soccer. The other kids played soccer, and then my daughter also played lacrosse, and my son, the older boy, played lacrosse as well. She would love to go to the kids' games. Not a big fan of the game-worn hockey hobby. We could talk more about that in a second. I got into it in '93 and have not jumped out of it. I always collected stuff. Grew up collecting comic books and baseball cards and football cards and hockey cards. I am a Philadelphian by birth, but have lived in suburban D.C. since 1986, which makes me old, I suppose, or something like that. I back to that in a second. Part of the collecting journey, I used to set up at card shows with my dad, who's still very much with us, and we talk all the time. He lives 10, 15 minutes away, and we just talk about the good memories that established, where we would rent a table and we would sell some baseball, a little bit of football, but mostly hockey. And the reason that we did it is because, A, we were huge hockey fans, and you just couldn't get that stuff or find that stuff in suburban DC. So we carved out a niche. My dad, aside from us having the normal metal cases with the glass top that you would, pop open like a hood on a muscle car, my dad made a couple of cases out of Formica and a road grader windshield. And it just,
phenomenal.
yeah, we would go and set up and have, just conversations. And that's actually where I met Derek Whitwer of the collecting world decades ago. And Frank Rady used to buy O-Pee-Chee Isermans from me in '89. And we had a blast. So I got to meet those guys then. I wish I knew then what I know now about the game-worn hobby. Obviously, it's been a learning type thing. We'll come back to the collecting in a split second. Jason's been nice enough to mention it. I spent 27 years in sports radio in D.C. as a host, a co-host, a beat reporter, a pre- and post-game host for the Washington Capitals radio network. I hosted for the football team and was a beat reporter for them. I did Wizards broadcasts. And then that was from 93 to 20. I got lucky and got a start. The sports radio station in D.C. opened up May of 1992, and I was waiting tables. Doc mentioned it. If you go to the website, scottlinnprpodcast.com, I give my whole spiel. I was waiting tables and attending classes at a local community college, hands-on stuff. They used to call them vocational, Wade. Now I just think they call them specialty or something like that. And so when I learned how to edit, I used a razor blade and a wax pencil and reel-to-reels. That stuff's obviously all gone digital now, so my razor blade has gotten a little bit rusty and my wax pencil a little bit dull. But I would wait tables, attend college courses at the community college. I had an internship that was paid for a very nominal fee, probably like $5-6 an hour at a business radio station where I would work overnights doing weather. Literally like the best 10 seconds every single hour. Some would also say that was my honeymoon. At any rate, I used to read the overnight weather he's got jokes too. That's like the worst progressive commercial you could ever hope to be in. So I used to do the weather on the overnights, but the sports radio station opened up and I was working at Cheesecake Factory. And the hosts, one of the guys still works on Sirius XM NFL radio, Bruce Murray, who I love. And whenever I haven't seen him in quite some time, but just the best guy in the world. Bruce was an overnight host. And I would leave the restaurant, Cheesecake Factory, at 1 a.m., go get a beer with my friends, and then go to the radio station. And I just called. I said, can I just come and watch? I just want to do that. And they were like, well, when's this relationship going to pay off for us? I said, oh, I've got cheesecake in the car. And I would, if there were no kitchen mistakes, boys, I would buy them dinner and just bring it for letting me sit there and watch in silence. I didn't want to be on the air. I just wanted to sit there in the control room. And it wound up being, an amazing 27-year ride. These days, I work at a news talk station, and I'm, learning new tricks. I'm an anchor and a reporter, and I love it. I love the people with whom I work, and, no sports. Now I get to watch as a fan, and I get to, focus on collecting and watch my kids, the youngest now, because he's the only one that's still in high school. I get to watch his games, and I get to watch games, and I don't have to do a book report for it the next day and fill 2, 3, 6 hours or whatever. Trust me, I loved it. Loved it. I was part of a national show for 16 years for Fox Sports Radio and then Yahoo Sports, and, a couple of different shingles. So it was an amazing ride, gentlemen. So that's pretty much where I am. The collection has gone from scatterbrained and all over the place, and you don't know what you want, so try to focus, to pretty much focused. I have a lot of capitals. I do have some baseball and, and some goalies, but, whittling it down, life gets in the way, kids get older, and, you start to fine tune, but it's still so much fun, and I'm as passionate about it as I ever was. Did I fill enough content? Was that okay?
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned, again, somebody else being in talk radio for 8 years ish. Funny how food is the easiest way to bribe people in radio. You bring them good food to the station, you'll get whatever you want.
Doc, you know what it's like. So, I love peeling back the curtain and talking to people about this stuff. No matter what market you're in, and you did at the beginning of the podcast when you talked about Mitch with the pucks and the drink your face off and the logo. Every radio station, every podcast, every whatever segment, you would love to have a sponsor. And it's certainly no different, because without sponsors and listeners, radio stations and radio segments and radio shows are nothing. We need you to make this happen. One of the greatest terms you will ever learn in the radio world is food drop. What's that? When Paisanos or Jimmy's Pizza or Dave's Barbecue or insert whatever here, hey, there's a Blues season opener, and it's the official sports bar, and they're dropping off their prime rib sliders by the tray full. And again, they have established legitimate, we're not in the payola era, this isn't the 1950s anymore, but they drop it off, and you do a couple of live spots, and you get to eat, and you're like, food drop. I have never put on so much weight so quickly as when it became food drop season, which was normally football season for whatever the burgundy and gold were called during that, period of time.
And one side story with that too is being here in Springfield, Illinois, I would go co-host with another guy during the Illinois State Fair. And again, you had the speakers out front from where we were broadcasting from, and we constantly said, hey, if you've got a new dish at your stand, bring it over and we'll try it. And we got more food, and we had a winery bring us 6, 8, 10 bottles of wine over, and my co-host did not drink, so I got to sample all of that.
You had the to-go package.
Yeah, thank God I had a driver. But no, that's the stuff I miss, and that is fun thing. So now that the collecting spot, you and your dad in cards and things like that. So you already had the collecting bug. It wasn't like an overnight just flip the switch kind of thing. What made you decide to get your first jersey, and what was it?
It was way back when. It was probably from Mr. Byron, and I believe it was a Nordiques. It may have been a Mikhail Tatarinov, only because short time cap. I believe I have that right. And I believe he's also no longer with us, not Milt, but Mr. Tatarinov. Milt is very much omnipresent. I loved the Nordiques, and I saw this, and I believe it had the anniversary patch, the cup patch on it at the time. So I was just enthralled by the logo, by the fact that the Quebec pieces at that time, again, all sewn, showed so much wear, boys. And you both have been around and perhaps have owned or used to own or still own or what have you. they're just amazing, amazing pieces. And hearing the stories and realizing that, we say this on the Meigray pod all the time with Tales from the Warehouse. Every sweater has a story, whether it's one shift and people were there watching it that night. You were part of that story. You got to see that story in person. So the bug was easy. The fact that I could jump into this hobby and have an actual uniform, so freaking cool. I don't know how many other ways we can say it. I'm sure there are a myriad of, but the collecting bug was there, as you said. And I was like, this is his uniform from this, for these months of this season. And look at the board paint and look at the stick marks and look at the unrepaired holes and look at everything, all of these characteristics. Doesn't get any better than that.
No, it sure doesn't at all. And the question is too, because you said you bought it from Milt. Did you buy it out of a back of one of the magazines?
No, no. Where did I see him? I believe I saw him at the Towson, Maryland show north of Baltimore in their arena. And
wow.
Milt was down here for that, and I had met him in person. And not soon after that, I think I met Joe Toman for the first time, and then a friend of mine, a coworker of mine who was, an older gentleman, but had an immense Washington Senators and Baltimore Orioles collection, and was affiliated with the ball clubs through the years, the original iterations of both Senators and the Orioles for forever. He was a well-known baseball guy who dabbled very much in memorabilia. He hooked me up with the thick Murph Denny catalog. And then, and then I love telling this to Jim Montag, I bought stuff from Neutral Zone and Doug Reisinger and you name it. And I was everywhere. And whatever I could get my hands on, not purchasing, just materials, back of the SCD. Sure, the Sports Collector's Digest. I mean, those were really the days. A couple of episodes ago, actually, I think it was the one right after you, where I talked to Stu and Jim. I asked Jim what he missed from the 90s, that era of collection, and he said the auctions via fax, where you would write in your bid and you would give them your three choices. And it brings back such fond memories, Doc, because, if you're of a certain age, you probably took part and you didn't know. They called you. They're like, hey, it's this, and it'll be $400. Is that okay to put that on your credit card? And you could say no. It wasn't click, refresh, snipe, click, refresh, snipe. What am I looking for? I hope nobody else is on the page. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. How high can I go? It was a different vibe. And again, this isn't old man yells at cloud, but who didn't love those days and the simplicity? And if I were to tell you now, somebody from NHL.com or Meigray Auctions is going to call you the next morning and go, you've won several items. Which one would you like? Or do you want all of them or none of them? And it's okay to go, I'm good. Don't worry about it. This one went a little high for me. That would never happen these days.
No. You'd be blackballed from any auctions anywhere.
Exactly.
And you're right. When I listened to that interview, I cracked up because the 99-2000 Blues season, after they won of course, they won a President's Trophy and then went out in the first round. It was auctioned by fax and printed it out at work, put my bids in and won, I think 2 of the 3 I bid on, and I'm still kicking myself in the ass for getting rid of one of them. One was a white Kelly Chase, I think set 2 or 3. And then one was Jeff Finley, defenseman. I got a white and a blue. But yeah, when you sent that fax off, I always called to make sure they got it. Because
right.
I couldn't guarantee, even if my fax machine said it was transmitted okay. Nope. I wanted to make sure. But you couldn't call thereafter and ask, hey, is mine still a high bid? They wouldn't tell you. Right.
You'd have to wait till the end for it to happen. But again, you're like, are you going to call? Are you going to call? Oh, it's over. And you're like, when's it going to happen? But I loved stuff like that. Again, going to see Milt. And then, there was another time where there was a big show in College Park, Maryland, where the University of Maryland is. And it was in the old Cole Field House. And I, for the life of me, cannot remember who the dealer was, but I remember seeing game-worn sweaters that, again, now what you know now and didn't know then. This guy at the time had Al McGinnis, and just like living legends that would be, I should have bought as much as I possibly could have purchased. But I think I was in the market for one thing and one thing only, and I didn't even ask about anything else. But, you get a bug like that, and then you go to a couple of New Jersey expos, and then Meigray comes along with how they've advanced and authenticity and research and transparency, and a lot of other people have upped their games, and your word is good, and it's all about integrity. I mean, there's just been the hobby has evolved in a major way. But back to the beginning, yeah, that was the bug. It was a Nord sweater.
Hey, that's a great one, especially a team now that hasn't existed in a long time, but just had a beautiful look to them, and the guys that came through that team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's been your latest purchase?
My wife listening? No, I, in all honesty, we have started to whittle down a little bit, just with the one out of college and the one in, and the one who's 2 years shy. There will be times where I'll squeeze something out and then something comes back in. What did I pick up? There was something recently that was available through Facebook, and the gent was lovely, out of Pennsylvania. I picked up the Dylan Strome first goal for the Coyote sweater that he had, and I'm like, I've never owned a first goal sweater before, and he had a Strome Blackhawks reverse retro with his name is Jared. You can find him on Facebook, but he had a series of Stromes. He had a Blackhawks reverse retro, which is gorgeous. A nice Capitals red, which I was also super interested in, but I made the call to go get the Coyotes first. Again, it freaked me out. It's like, wow, it's photo matched, and there's video of him scoring his first goal. I now have that sweater. So, it's sort of out of my collection. It's a cap, not in a Caps uniform, and not a goalie, but super exciting to add that to the pile, boys.
Well, and especially with Arizona going away, having a lot of people are scrambling to get Coyotes jerseys in general, just to have one. I mean, I know there's a ton of them out there. It's not like I think they'll be locked away anytime soon, but it is nice to pick one up if you can, and especially, like you said, a first goal, because they're only going to have one of those.
Right. It's one of those things, too, that sort of freaks me out, where I know guys aren't into collecting. I know a lot of players just aren't into it. But if you are even the slightest bit, that's something that should be in his closet, not mine. And maybe one day it will be. I know, Doc, you've made deals, with players who have, asked about special stuff. And that to me is really what the hobby's all about. It's about connecting and collecting. But if there's a player who says, hey, might you know where this is? That's the ultimate. Like they're coming to you, and,
oh yeah,
a friendship is formed, and a bond is formed, and a connection is formed. That's other level stuff.
So if you could own any regular player jersey and any goalie jersey, what would you own?
In my studio, as you can see, as I'm surrounded by the 79-cent per panel Amazon foam, I keep a picture, an oversized card. This is the Hockey Stars in Action collection, and there's yellowing. It's certainly not in mint, but I don't know if this is going to show up or not.
Oh, that's a great shot.
It's a really, really cool Terry Sawchuk. Yeah. At one point in time, I had what was supposed to be, I think it actually was really his, and I believe my dad and I decided that we would just auction it off. We had a catcher of his, as opposed to, a blocker, but we had a catcher, and, it went away. I wish that was still in the collection, but if I could have anybody, it would be his. His life story is something to behold. His play was insane. The pain and the sacrifice and everything that this guy put his body through, just like a lot of players from that era. Sure, it's easy to say a Gretzky or a Lemieux or a Waugh. I'd take it, or a Gordie Howe, obviously, or the list is endless. There's no wrong answer, but I would take a Sawchuk 10 out of 10 times, and a sawchuck wings at that.
And I mean,
Not a bad choice.
no. And those eras, and like you said, what the goalies wore, what they went through, and as somebody who plays goalie and is padded, where I almost don't feel the puck in certain areas, it's insane how they played, even with when guys weren't wearing masks, how they played that way, being a target. I mean, no thanks. I mean, when I take one off the cages occasionally of my mask and stuff, and have to stop and adjust, and I'm like, boy, I'm glad that's in my face to stop that, because otherwise it would hurt like hell.
Doc, even with all of the gear, and it's been a good couple of years, there was one night I played floor for a very long time. Sadly, I've stopped, and I miss it like I miss my dogs of my youth. I miss it tremendously. But work schedules intervened, and a heel spur that won't go away, and I can't legitimately have it sawed off. I could go to the doctor, have it sawed off, but everything else in my life I can do normally. I can walk, I can jog, I can bike. Everything else is fine. If I start to play hockey, I'll irritate it, and then I'll probably rupture an Achilles or something like that. Or that's what I've been told by my wife. Anyway, I did play goal once with a lot of gear on, and it's still, I just marvel at everybody that plays that position at any level. The focus, the grace, the ability, you got to be able to be cat quick and whatever. Even the worst floor goalies are still, everybody's worthy of respect in that position. You put that gear on, you instantly have my love. That's it.
It is an addicting position. I mean, like you heard me mention at the top of the show, is I'm playing in a charity game with Pucks for Autism on November 2nd before the Blues and Leafs game. And the last 2 years I played in that, and it's been awesome to do it. I've skated out. So I've scored a few goals between the 2 years and picked up some assists and sitting on the bench with the guys and looking around. But now this year I'm going in net. So it's going to be a completely different setup. I'll play half the game and then split it with another goalie just so they can be fair with the setup we have. But it's going to be such a different thing, and I'll be nervous as hell just because I'm in there. I mean, there'll be 30 fans watching it, our family watching it, and nobody else in the arena, but it's just going to be because I'm standing on that ice, and Binnington's in that spot, and other super high level NHL goalies playing on that exact piece of ice. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. A good couple of years ago now, the 80 Olympic team from the Miracle on Ice came to Washington, some sort of in-town celebration. And Eruzione was there, and Jim Craig was there. And I got to go on the ice. I was a member of the Washington Capitals broadcast team for a while, but I think I was just covering for our local station. And whenever those guys are, they're legends, and for good reason. I saw there was a recent bipartisan effort to get them some sort of congressional honor before they, and sadly some of them have died off. But before they all go away, please let them be recognized, because it's pretty awesome. At any rate, I remember standing on the ice on a carpet with Jim Craig, just realizing while he's never played in, Verizon or Cap One or whatever it is it's called these days, just being down there on that ice with him and looking around and just seeing that, man, super jealous, super envious, and super stoked for everybody that gets to put on that gear and stand in front of the 6x4.
Oh yeah, and it's, I say, I may not be the greatest at it, but you make the random glove save or a fun kick save or whatever. It's
invigorating.
Yeah,
yes.
I go to the locker room afterwards and have a beer. So, we've covered a ton of ground tonight, and love all your interactions with everything. What do you feel like going forward? The state of the hobby and with the new Fanatics jerseys coming in, just kind of, do you think the hobby in this stuff is in a good place, or what maybe would you change?
I think the hobby is in a great place, and I'll tell you why. because there is a really, really good bond between collectors, and the collectors that I know of, everybody, you'll get gripes here and gripes there. We're all humans. It is a village. But Wade, you can also speak to this. Everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to chat. And you used the word earlier about the passion. We all share it.
For sure.
It's we're all welcoming each other and welcome. And I love welcoming new people. I got my local friend, and he's probably going to watch this. My buddy Brian, into the hobby. He's interested, longtime Caps fan, and he's learning and talking and investigating, and just he loves it. And it's great to share that with somebody. I like the fact that new blood is coming in of all different ages. And one of the guests who we had on Tales from the Warehouse month and a half ago, Grant Friel, young guy, but an old soul and an old collecting soul, and somebody who appreciates, as long as we share. But it's also the communication. Again, I'm like over talking. I'll defer in a second. As long as we do the two-way street thing, tell me how you're seeing the hobby. Oh, well, I think the old guys are too stuffy. Okay, I'll be less stuffy if I'm one of those old guys. I want this to be, dude, it's a freaking hobby. Like, there should be no, that don't make it drama filled. Like, we all love hockey. We all love hockey sweaters.
The thing I've discovered throughout the hobby is the good people will continue to grow, and you see the people with bad attitudes or bad intentions, they tend to fade away. So the onset and influx of new good people, I think it's everyone's responsibility in the hobby to cultivate those people, and welcome them and educate them and help them. And, I think that's what we continue to see.
It's a great point. When I'm at my table, during Francis's show and at Nova, I never get a second chance to make a first impression. Everybody that comes up, I'm like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, good. It's like, hey, if you have any questions, I'm not going to, we talked about the interviewing process of radio and podcasting. And I don't want, I want you to be comfortable. If you're comfortable being chatty, then God bless, I'll be chatty. If you are, no, I just want to look and I want to keep my head down. All
Sure.
Good. No judgment. Then be comfortable. Maybe you're not, you didn't come here to make friends. You came here to see if I would negotiate. What? It's okay. I just want everybody to be at ease. Again, we're at a Jersey show. There's no nothing. Like, go and have fun and enjoy it. But I agree. I mean, Doc, back to your question about the fanatics. Let's just say the jury's out. I mean, when you said, you got to feel, I want to put them on, when we were all little and our moms or dads or grandmothers or somebody may have given us like the worst wool sweater for holiday time. And you're like, oh, this is itchy, or I don't like the lines on the inside. I don't like the stitch work on the cuffs. They're irritating. I could see where guys put on their forearm pads, and then all of a sudden you got lumps inside of your wrist because it's too fat or too this or too that. I imagine that there will be some growth. Hopefully not as, what's the word, extreme as they were dealing with the baseball stuff in the early part of the season, because that was a bleep show on parade. I'm hopeful in reading what we've read and hearing what we've heard that a lot of the things are already close in proximity as to what they were doing, and there really aren't going to be that many big changes. We'll know in a couple months if you pre-ordered a set one, or if you're ready to win an auction, or if you're ready to, make the splash and see if you can get yourself hooked up with one. We'll all know. But I would also probably say maybe the Players Union will pipe up and say, you know what, we don't like this, but we loved these things. Ultimately, the collectors will pass their own judgment too, boys. We all know that with, hey, it's, you know what I wanted to show? Everything. I wanted to show every hole, every pull, everywhere, every puck mark, every stick mark, every, like Tommy Lee Jones said in The Fugitive, I want you to check every outhouse, penthouse, doghouse, Show me whatever this shows. Tell a good story. That'd be a great sweater from Fanatics.
For sure. And we just hope it's not a disaster like the first iteration of the Reebok Edge jerseys, where they had to do massive changes, not even a quarter of the way into the season because
Amen.
Everybody was complaining on those.
Yeah.
Amen, Doc. Amen.
Wade, any final thoughts from you?
No, I mean, thanks, Scott, for coming on. It's been a real pleasure to hear your beautiful voice. And,
and I didn't even sing. Darn it.
No, I mean, it's it's really fun. I continue to implore people that reach out to ask us to come on the show. I mean, like, don't wait for an invite. Hit Doc up. I mean, like, if you want to come on the show, do that. Or if you have something interesting to tell us, do it. But thanks for what you do in the hobby, because you are spreading the word of what we do. So thank you.
Very kind. It's very, very nice, especially coming from you guys, because I know this podcast is highly regarded and largely viewed, and you guys have a following, and that's a credit to you as hobbyists. So
Doc
the
has a
passion
following.
comes through.
Doc has a following. I'm just some chubby dumb guy. It's funny.
You follow Doc, so that's basically it.
Hey,
Absolutely.
However it works.
Yeah.
Scott, any other final thoughts from you before we get out of here this evening?
No, thank you guys for having me, and anytime. Honestly, it was an absolute pleasure. I had a blast, and it was a good excuse to drink, some Old Forester on a Thursday night. So I may go up and do this, and then watch the last little bit of the Niners Seattle game and some NHL, which is still free on the preview.
Hey,
we're gonna have a late night here. Blues don't start for a little bit, and I'm sitting here going, "Oh man, I'm gonna be up really late."
Yeah. I'm gonna edit this and take NyQuil, and that's gonna be all she wrote. But
good feeling better. Doc.
Yeah, definitely. Scott, hopefully we can get you out to a St. Louis Expo, or even plan for it next spring, where Wade is doing the Frozen 4 Expo in April.
Yeah. That'd be pretty damn cool. I will check the calendar, and Wade, good luck with the upcoming St. Louis gig. Of
We're
course,
gonna see you. I'll definitely see you at me and Doc are both trying to make plans, and I'm definitely trying to get to George and to Meigray in this next year. So
that's great. And if you can make it back to Nova for Francis, we'd love to see you. You guys can stay here in the basement. We would be happy to have you.
I'm waiting for the announcement on how they're going to handle that and get that going. But that's always on my ticket. I have some great friends, Matt and Dan and some other guys that I just love to see. And everybody there is so fantastic. So that's a don't miss kind of weekend for me.
No, I'm glad to hear it. And as you guys have put it in not so many words, it's a hobby steeped in, again, collect and connect and friendships. And, the jerseys almost become secondary, but you're like, hey, it's really good to see you. And now we've got, slipping and falling down the steps stories, and 2 a.m. diner stories, and 6 a.m. diner stories, and everything revolves around food with us for some reason, just as long as we don't get the food too close to the sweaters.
And that's why the sweaters, being as the size of they are, it works out, because when we eat too much, they still fit.
Done and done. Been there. I feel seen, as the kids like to say, boys.
Well, Scott, you are welcome anytime. Again, thank you for all your time. I know it's getting late out there. You can go out. For everybody else listening to podcasts, it'll probably be too late.
But East Case Factory's still open.
Yeah, that too. The Aurora Borealis is showing up outside. I looked at it just for it. We actually started this recording at 7:00. The skies were pink over central Illinois. So kind of a cool little thing to drop technology and just look outside. But again, Scott, you are welcome anytime. Thank you for having me on the Tales from the Warehouse, and make sure you check those out. I know the new one just dropped today, talking about the
welcome to the season. Jeff Spade with the 24-25 and the program teams for Meigray. And now I don't have my notes in front of me. Columbus, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Nashville, and Washington. There you go. Sorry about that.
Yeah, your team there. So.
Yeah, really, the one I shouldn't forget, of course. But yeah, no, it's always a blast, and Jeff's such a good talker. And again, it helps. Like I said, good podcast. I'm happy to be part of it. I'm honored to be part of it, and it's a passionate. And I know we'll wrap this up, but when they talk and they talk all so well, as you did, as the guests do, makes my job really, really easy. But thank you, boys, for having me. This has been a pleasure. I'd love to come back down the line.
You are welcome anytime, and we will definitely have you back on. Everybody enjoy the show. Hope you have had a good week. Again, for those people down in Florida, if you need things, reach out to somebody, or in other areas. Drop us a line, please. Like, subscribe, all that normal stuff for the podcast. Leave us comments. I try to get those responded to as soon as I can. And like Wade said, if you want to come on, and I actually had somebody reach out the other day. I had helped them buy a jersey, somebody they collect, and they reached back out saying, hey, me and my friend would both like to come on. Can we? Like, okay, let's lock in a date. And we're sorting dates out right now. So yeah, feel free to just shoot a message. Say, hey, I'd love to come on. Okay. It's not some secret society, we promise. So again, thank you for all the support, and Scott, thank you for your support as well.
Be good, boys. Thank you.